Utilities, it's all about electric, water, pipeline, and gas.
When crews can collect GIS data faster, staying under budget becomes much more likely.
Well, workflow is everything, especially out in the field. Workflow is money.
Or kind of a sketch on a map or something like that. That type of accuracy level isn't good enough anymore.
Is there a piece of technology that's maybe coming down the pipeline in the next few years?
We don't have to shut down the road. If we can see it, we can measure to it.
I think the number one factor is safety.
Where the challenge comes in is when those conditions aren't great.
Are there any other uses or use cases for this laser rangefinder kind of technology? Utilities need accurate field data to keep work fast and safe. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So what happens when satellite systems are unreliable, access is restricted, or time is short? You're about to get the answer. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Power Perspectives. I'm Kinsey Grant Baker. So Global Navigation Satellite Systems, or GNSS, as we'll call it from here on out. This is vital to utilities doing the tough job of keeping the lights on no matter what. But the world around us doesn't always make tapping into GNSS simple. What happens when crews need to take important measurements in urban or forested environments, or in spots where GNSS is all but denied? How do they implement practical techniques and workflows to keep maps, vegetation programs, and asset inventories current in the face of all of those challenges? That's what the team at LaserTech is all about. Their technology helps field crews maximize productivity while working more efficiently, no matter what the field looks like day to day. Today, we have three stellar experts from the team here to explain how field data is meeting the moment, no matter where and no matter how. I'm thrilled to welcome our guests today, Derrick Reish, Global Manager of Product Management, Steve Colburn, Applications Training Specialist, and Joe Cronn, Sales Manager for the Western United States. Team, welcome to Power Perspectives. How are you today?
Doing good. Kinsey, thanks.
Great.
Doing well.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to have all of you here today. And I wanted to add a quick note. This episode is brought to you by LaserTech. So stick around to hear more about the really, really interesting and impactful work that their team is up to. Now, as we get started today, I think it would be helpful if we got into some introduction. So I would love for each of you to just introduce yourselves a bit more. Maybe tell me a little bit more about your role at LaserTech, what type of work you do in the energy sector. Derrick, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us here. Derrick Reish. I'm the manager of product management. I've been with LaserTech for over 27 years, and I focus on product solution designs for the professional measurement different markets, which include forestry, utilities, mining, construction, etc. So even all the way to the GIS, and with the utilities, it's all about electric, water, pipeline, and gas. So we want to provide the right solutions and products for those different markets. Here at LaserTech, we design, manufacture, and distribute pulse laser measurement devices, aka reflectorless devices. So we have product solutions in different markets that we go after, from speed enforcement to our professional measurement side. And also we have a wide range of data collection applications right in the market. We also were the first to the market with a low-cost rangefinder for the hunt and golf market. So we provide, again, all these different product solutions to provide measurement solutions.
Awesome. Steve, Joe, what about you guys? When do you want to jump in and tell us a little bit more about your background?
Sure. I've been with the company 30 years, like the whole team here today, and came to it from learning the surveying industry. So I bring kind of an end user perspective to the company, and been involved with service, tech support, product development, just about every avenue like that in the company, and really enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. And Joe, what about you?
I'm Joe Cronn, and I'm the sales manager for the Western United States for LaserTech. I've been around for 30 years or so. I first started in the utility market with SMUD back in the late 90s when they had the first fiber to home drop and stuff, and I learned all about joint use, that kind of fun stuff. So I've been jumping around in the utility business for quite a while. Worked with Bonneville Power in they're mitigating their fines for their from the NERC years ago. So we have a lot of experience, and we provided laser instruments for all kinds of different measurement applications within the utility sector.
Yeah, it's great to have such vast experience on this episode. I think that we have a lot to tap into in terms of understanding more about the importance of accurate measurement. And I'm grateful to have all of you here today to help us do that. I think it's a good place to start. Before we get into some of that measurement gap that I was alluding to in that introduction about the times when things are not as easy to measure. I would love if you could start by just painting the picture for me of why accurate field data is so important. Can you tell me a little bit more about just what's at stake when we're talking about the conversation of capturing this accurate field data?
Those accuracy requirements are increasing, every year. Kinsey, as you know, everybody wants more and more accurate data, and it's becoming more readily available as the technologies mature and everything. So, that's the drive from the front end, or the front office, or the top floor. They want accurate data. So the field crews are tasked with going out and getting it. And a lot of the GNSS equipment these days can do that. But it really needs an open sky and, good conditions to do that. So where the challenge comes in is when those conditions aren't great, or the access to the feature that needs to be mapped isn't great. So that's kind of where we fit in.
Yeah, different terrains, dangerous areas, rough terrain. I mean, visual obstructions, all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, like Steve's mentioning, they need to collect those assets in different areas. They just need to have that. So that's where we come into play.
Yeah, it's an important point, to start this conversation with kind of understanding what some of those moments of tough data situations or circumstances that you might find yourself in. That doesn't mean you just don't capture the data, right? It's still necessary. We still have this, very, very significant need from across utility businesses to capture that accurate data. It infiltrates and influences decisions really across the business. So let's run through what some of those situations are. You mentioned private property when there's a big dog barking, GNSS needing open sky conditions. Are there any other conditions or circumstances to really keep in mind when we're trying to get a full picture of what some of those, shortcomings might look like in terms of capturing accurate field data? Maybe a little bit more about the when, the why, the how, any geographies or topographies that might present some of those more common challenges for utility workers in the field.
Yeah, ravines. I mean, that's a big one. You don't want to cross a ravine or cross a stream or a river or whatever. Might be something on the other side you got to get to, or like in a roadway, the big safety factor, right? I mean, it's all about safety too. We need to talk more about that. Is they might need to collect assets that are in the middle of the roadway or right next to it and stuff like that. And as we all know, a lot of people drive and don't pay attention to the crews on the side of the road, and so that's want to protect themselves when in those situations.
Right. It's a whole nother inconvenience. It takes more personnel to route traffic. They got to close down a lane or something. It's just, you get all the costs added up and time and everything.
Yeah, I was working with a PUD here recently, and they were talking about shutting down the road. And I said, we don't have to shut down the road. If we can see it, we can measure to it. And we were able to get the job done safely off the shoulder of the road, nowhere near any kind of danger, and was able to get all the data they needed off that particular piece of that asset that they had.
Yeah, I mean, safety is a huge part of this conversation too. We want to prioritize the safety of field crews while also ensuring that there is, a need that is met in terms of inspection, measurement, collecting those assets. I would love to talk a little bit more specifically about the role that those assets play across utilities. We mentioned that this is sort of the baseline. There's an increasing expectation for more and better data as the utility and energy industries become more technified, right? So tell me a little bit more about the role that collecting these assets, this data, and doing so safely, that role that might play in something like, planning for a utility. Can you walk me through maybe some of the impact on an element of the utility business like planning that having good data, good assets might represent?
Yeah, it would be just knowing what assets you have there. I mean, if some assets are hidden from view or hidden from the sky or difficult to access, they may never have been put on a map before. So you want to know where all those assets are, different utilities and such, and also the accuracy. If the accuracy is not there, if you're going off old as-built, paper as-built, and their true location is 6 feet away, I mean, that can play in a really important part in planning and the construction project that might be going on there or something like that. So it's really important. And, sometimes these assets are underneath the roof of a garage or something, and there's no way you can get any kind of satellite signal in there. So those have to be located somehow. And It can't just be a guess, or kind of a sketch on a map or something like that. That's just that type of accuracy level isn't good enough anymore.
I imagine this also plays a part in emergency response and management as well.
Yeah, you got to know where all those things are. There can't be any holes in your data anywhere, and one of your layers that you need, whether it's water, electric, whatever the service might be. You don't want any holes or surprises, right?
Yeah, they got to pull up that map and be located. They got to find it quickly. I mean, they can't be over there hunting for an asset, or if they need to go dig or anything like that. I mean, they can't be, like Steve said.
Planning's already been done. They're out there working, and then they get a surprise. That's just worst case.
Yeah, Hurricane Sandy sure opened some eyes with some utilities when they went back out to find their assets on those coastal communities, and they couldn't find them. That's because their as-bills were off, they weren't accurate, and they have to go out and basically remap their as-bills, their older as-bills. And we're seeing that quite a bit across the country, really. A lot of assets, I find it a lot in California, a lot of assets they think are there are, a few yards away or sometimes 100 feet away. So our lasers come in really handy for remapping those assets and getting an accurate point on a map so you can get there when you need to.
Yeah, it's a great segue, Joe. I appreciate it. This idea of, assets maybe being hundreds of feet away from where you think they are. Steve, you mentioned assets under the roof of a garage. We're dealing with a lot of circumstances here, many of which probably feel out of control for people, field crews who are out there trying to collect this information. So with all of this in mind, I would love to talk now about how we fill the gaps. Talk to me a little bit more about the use of some of Laser Tech's products, this laser rangefinder, in some of these more, let's call them complicated or complex instances that we've been talking about today. Walk me through how this works, how this technology works, and how it helps those field crews to do the job that they really want and need to do faster, more efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, our lasers that we design are, again, reflectorless technology, so you don't have to have the second person taking a measurement to it, or a reflector to the object and everything like that. And one of the main lasers we design's got 3 different sensors in there to get all the different type of values that are needed to capture that remote asset. First is the laser sensor that measures our distance, and then we have a accelerometer that measures our tilt or vertical angle of the laser itself, and there's a compass sensor in the unit also, which is off of magnetic north. So that gives us our azimuth or direction. And those values come handy for this offset measurement that we're talking about and everything like that. So that's what we design into the laser for these type of different measurements. And Steve and Joe can jump in about exactly about how it's been used with that different offset.
Yeah, Kinsey, if you can imagine, you've got an object in the distance that you need to put on your map, and you, again, don't want to take the time or energy to occupy with your GNSS antenna. With our laser, you can stand in a safe location that has good visibility of the sky. You get a good position, and you can measure distance and direction to that feature, that asset that you want to map. So with that distance, direction, and your known position, you can put that object on your map that way. It's just a pretty simple calculation. And you can even track elevation of the object as well as that, latitude, longitude position. So that's kind of the basic concept. You can cross these gaps that we're talking about just by measuring distance and direction with the laser. It can be as simple as that.
Yeah, depending on the application, let's take joint use, for example. They do everything anymore. I mean, they get position of the particular pole. They get attachment separation. They get height. They get attachment to attachment distances. They get sag. They get conductor clearances, all that kind of stuff. So it's really kind of coming full circle. So you can use our instruments for all those kind of applications and get accurate measurements and actually capture a remote target or a remote asset you need to put on the map without having to occupy.
I mean, it's really interesting technology that sounds like it could make a pretty significant difference in the lives and work of the people who are out there trying to capture all of this information and these assets. What has the response been like from those folks themselves? I'm curious if you have any insight into the response from maybe, some of the field crews who are out here in circumstances and situations and environments that might not always be ideal. What have they said about using this kind of technology?
Oftentimes they find find it invaluable. I mean, like they say the thing pays for itself on the first job. They can make measurements that used to take them, 10, 15 minutes. They can make it in 10 seconds now, so it really improves their productivity out in the field, which they love. Everybody likes to get the job done quicker. And, we're always focused on training them to make the measurements accurately too. So they stay within those thresholds. So, yeah, they love them. They just find large improvements in productivity with the unit.
And then, I mean, the other thing about what field crews, I mean, they don't want to take a lot of equipment out there. That's the big thing, right? And so this is the device that's being used. I mean, it's a small unit that fits right in their vest or easily in a Pelican case. So they don't have to carry a lot of stuff out there. That's another big thing that the field crews talk about. Easy to use. The training on it is simple. I mean, we've got videos on it and everything like that, but usually Joe might go out there and train a few of them in a half a day, and they're ready to go for the rest of their time. So that's what the field crews do definitely love about it.
Yeah, we have a lot of different users across the different utility sector, and I would say, gosh, most of these guys have their lasers in their trucks every day, and they're using them every day. We have some folks, like estimators and stuff like that only use them once every couple of weeks or once a month, but they seem to really get their mileage out of them. I've seen lasers in people's offices and out in the field that look like, they went through a nuclear war, but they're still out there measured with them and using them. So the response back from the end users is pretty positive. Once in a while, I get my butt chewed, but, it happens, but we're only human. But overall, though, I think we've been really successful in the utility market.
Yeah, certainly sounds like a well-loved product. I would love to talk a little bit more about what it looks like to make that case for utilities. Obviously, it sounds like the field crews are really into this product. It makes their lives and their work easier. Tell me a little bit more about how you communicate that effectiveness to the utility level, to the folks who are maybe in the office making decisions, not necessarily the folks who are out in the field trying to capture these assets. Are there pilots that you could point to, maybe a case study that you could tell us a little bit more about today?
We have Dominion Gas doing all those projects where they're mapping in facilities, and they get a lot of alleyways and things like that where they have tight conditions and the GNSS is degraded and everything. So they link our laser in there, and they can kind of plan on when they got those facilities, but they don't. So they've always got our laser out with them. So they may use it once a day, or they may use it 100 times a day, but they've always got it there when they need it.
Yeah, and kind of getting the program going or anything like that. I mean, we visit with each. I mean, we have partners that know these utility companies, and then we work with them to get in, visit with them. Then like Joe and Steve, what these can do and the capabilities and everything, and then the ease of use. And then the biggest thing is to get it really kicked off with a lot of these field crews is get it in their hands. Once they have it in their hands, they can see the capabilities of doing these measurements and the accuracies they get, taking that back to the database and seeing the accuracies they are able to achieve with it. I mean, it's pretty simple to get that program going and to use, but it is a lot of hands-on. I mean, we have it's product. Everybody needs to see it in the field first and what it can do, and that's the big part of that, kicking that off.
Another case I mentioned earlier was the parking garage, where that was for a municipality, and they have all these different assets underneath there, all the different services, fire hoses, all that type of stuff at the different floors on the parking garage. And of course they want to maintain that RTK level accuracy as best they can as they go through there. So we were able to use our products to move underneath there and map in those assets, and even go up multiple floors and things like that, and still maintain good accuracy. And a project we did in a couple hours, in the morning, would have taken a field crew all day to do, multiple people, and so you get those kinds of payoffs with using the equipment.
Yeah, I'm sure the timing element is also a big part of making the case here, that you can do a lot more with less time. You can be more efficient when you have the right tech in your truck, in your vest, in your pocket. I would love to hear, just as we, get the full picture of the case for utilities for investing in technology like this to help their field crews to get that accurate data. What other advice might you have for utility professionals and decision makers who are listening to this episode today, beyond call Laser Tech, that can help them to make this happen, that can help them to implement this high quality, efficiently collected, data at scale? What would be some of your advice to ensure that can happen for anybody who's listening today?
I think the number one factor is safety. I mean, one is the safety factor. I mean, if you ever I know, Joe, you've been on sites. Steve, you have too. The first thing you go through is a safety class before you go through any company. That's number one. I mean, that's a big, and using our lasers do help the crew members be safe out in the field. That's number one. Steve, Joe, you got other?
I would say they just need to analyze their features that they need to map. If they're all out in the wide open with safe locations and safe access, there's maybe the laser isn't a fit for that project. But if there's others with difficult access, or they can see time efficiencies or safety efficiencies improved by using the laser, just explore all your different tech options. There's imagery, there's scanning lasers, there's all kinds of technology out there, and they each have their own application. So explore them all and check them out. Give them a try.
Yeah, well, workflow is everything, especially out in the field. Workflow is money, so you gotta make sure you're efficient. One piece of advice I can give the upper management type folks is make sure, and this happened not too long ago, make sure the file formats they're collecting in the field in their data collection for GPS offsets that we've been talking about, those kind of things, can be used by the back office when they're plotting everything and making a map. If they can't use the same file format, then it's this gets kind of a little bit on the ugly side. So just make sure everybody's on the same page. I've been involved where the people in the back office didn't have a clue what the notes were the people in the field were collecting, right? So we had to go in there and fix, get all that, not necessarily fix it, but get everybody on the same page. What it meant, what the stuff they were capturing, what it meant as far as some attributes in the back office. So everybody's got to be on the same page.
Got to be speaking the same language. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. So Steve, Joe, Derrick, you guys have all given us such incredible insights and answers into understanding the importance of what we're talking about today, some of the technology that's changing asset collection and data collection in the utility industry. And now it is time to get into our lightning round. So we're going to keep things quick and rapid fire. So I've got a couple questions pulled together for you here today, and I would love to hear your hot takes and your perspectives. First question in this lightning round. If you had one piece of advice for utility execs listening in, what would it be?
Don't wait to get your program started, especially veg management out west with the fires and stuff like that.
Explore all your options.
And then train your people. I mean, that's the other thing, training.
I mean, there's a perfect playbook right there. Don't wait, explore your options, and train your people. You got a functioning utility. All right. Are there any other uses or use cases for this laser rangefinder kind of technology that you might not find in the utility market that are interesting for our listeners to hear a little bit more about? Where else do you see this kind of stuff happening?
Oh man, we can name that for a long time.
I bet a lot of them have used a rangefinder for in golf for hunting. We find that pretty pervasive these days. And we kind of, as Derrick mentioned earlier, we started that back in the early 90s.
Yeah, and this is true. One of my weeks was I was working with the Olympic National Park folks and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife map and black bear dens. I drove to SeaTac, flew to Reno. The next morning, I was working with the Navy SEALs at the Fallon Air Warfare Center, and I do everything in between. So I could tell you a lot of stories. I've been flown into the Grand Canyon and so on and so forth.
That sounds incredibly cool.
Yeah, we got military applications all the way from mining, construction to helping. One of our fun stories is a guy using this offset method at a zoo. So, like when you really don't want to go inside, maybe where the polar bears are or whatever, but you still need to map some assets or anything like that in the zoo. And so they'd stand outside outside the safe area and measure into that. So, I mean, that's kind of a fun one to talk about, is like still utilizing this offset function. There's laser GIS offset mapping routine that was actually done at a zoo. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool story. But these guys, we've been in this business, like you said, about 30 years or more, and we've seen a lot of different stories about where lasers are used.
I can imagine. What an interesting use case. I'm sure a lot of the field crews or folks who work on those crews who are listening to this episode probably feel like they work in a zoo sometimes, but there are actually people using this in a zoo. All right, next question for you. Do you have one quick piece of advice for your past self earlier in your career?
That's a good question. Study more. No, I'm just kidding.
I wish I could have had to use a laser back in the day. That's for sure. I started out with the old equipment, theodolites and chains and stuff.
Yeah, I wish I had a rangefinder early in my hunting career. I'll tell you, it would have been really handy.
I love it. All right, my final question for you today. Is there a piece of technology that's maybe coming down the pipeline in the next few years, decade or so, that you feel really excited about? What is something that's giving you a reason to feel kind of amped up and excited about the tech that is going to dominate the future of the power industry?
Well, with like laser rangefinders, what we do is we always try to improve the accuracy, improve the product, the user experience, and everything like that we do. So we're always listening to customers and for those type of improvements, and that's what we strive on doing that as laser tech. And then just the integration of all these different devices that are out there, all these different measurement devices. You just see a lot more just kind of coming together to find that solution, and for everybody to get the accurate data they need.
Right. That's what I think. I think we're going to be able to achieve these accuracy requirements using all these different technologies and blending them together, depending on, again, the feature set you have to work on that project. I think we'll be able to achieve that. There's inertial sensors coming out and stuff like that that'll help with some of that. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm getting my feet with right now, just beginning, is this IMU technology, these inertia sensors Steve just mentioned, and how those are going to play, especially for horizontal angles and stuff like that, to add to our accurate measurements, range and inclination, and see where that leads us. I think there's some pretty good possibilities in this whole AI thing. We'll see where that goes too.
We certainly will. I love the final answer of the final question is, we finally talk about AI. It feels like it always comes up earlier. I appreciate you guys sharing this wonderful insight with us. Thank you so much for joining me today and telling everybody listening to this episode of Power Perspectives all about the work that you're doing. It's really, really compelling stuff, and I'm genuinely grateful that you stopped by and got to share some of it with our audience.
Absolutely, Kinsey. It's our pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Of course. And as a reminder, today's episode is brought to you by Laser Tech. Collect accurate asset positions in GNSS impaired environments with laser GIS. Using offset laser measurement methods, field crews can maximize productivity while working more efficiently in the field. When crews can collect GIS data faster, staying under budget becomes much more likely. And with laser offset workflows, teams can save time while still capturing critical measurement data, all from safe locations. If you want to hear even more about laser tech, go to the description of this episode wherever you are listening or watching to find a link to learn more. And thank you, as always, for tuning in to another episode of Power Perspectives. I'm Kinsey Grant Baker, and I will see you next time.